průběhu včerejších debat
During the course of yesterday and the discussions, we discussed the issue of centralized procurement in Sweden. The deputy minister has mentioned the burden to minor procurers. Peter Norstedt from Sweden has mentioned that their organization is supporting 290 communities. I dare to say that added value of such an assisting center, the role of such an assisting center could be of greatest importance. We have agreed that the journey towards the sustainability in public procurement is difficult, can be ad hoc. One of the hosts, Petr Sokol, once mentioned that we are like ants running around, that it somehow works, but we can try to manage it. We can define strategies, goals, targets, procedures, the individual steps which will lead us towards higher sustainability of public procurement. Yesterday we have heard Gerhard Martin Beiner from Austrian NABE, where they have a national action plan for sustainable procurement, and we will try to have a closer look at both Austria and Slovakia today. Now I would like to invite two speakers. I would like to ask Mr. Lexa from the Vice Chairman of the Public Procurement Office in Slovakia, and Laura Bauer, the Project Manager from the NABE platform for the sustainability of public procurements in Austria.
A jak už bylo tedy řečeno, As
it has already been mentioned, I probably do not have to reintroduce the Vice Chairman, Mr. Lexa, who is the head of the Institute of Public Procurement in Slovakia, is in charge of public procurement for a whole range of years. He's talking about the use of common sense in public procurement, and we also have Laura Bauer, who has prepared a presentation which will expand on what has been mentioned yesterday by Gerhard Beiner. Laura, now the floor is yours.
Okay, the mic should be working. The mic should be working as well.
You know, the technician will help me now, but sorry. Yeah. Okay, wonderful, perfect. Ahoy, dobrý den, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing speaking to you. And at the beginning, I just want to clarify one tiny little bit on information. Sometimes in my presentation, I will talk about SPP, and this is not service payment plan. It's sustainable public procurement. I just wanted to check on this, that I'm a right event and I'm holding the right presentation. I will tell you today about the NABE platform. I will expand the information you got yesterday. I will talk about the catalog we have, and I will tell you about our activities we do within the NABE platform. And you know, there will be information you might already know. I will expand on that, but I want everyone to get on board to get, you know, the whole picture. And did you know who's speaking to you? My name is Laura Bauer. I'm from the NABE platform for sustainable procurement. It's a rocking abbreviation for nachhaltige Beschaffung, sustainable procurement. I have a background in environmental sciences, and I come from the world of sustainability. And this is so cool to work in the world of procurement, because now I can bring best of both worlds together. I will share some perspectives, some learnings, and some hand-on tips for you might want to take away for today. I think we can move on with the slides.
You've got the remote? Sorry for that.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, it's always good to have a little walk. So let me tell you a little bit about the NABE action plan. It covers several general aspects regarding sustainability you see on the screen right now. More interestingly, it is a long process which took place over the years. So from the first idea implementing national action plans from 2003, it was formulated into a sort of catalog in 2010 with a rather long revision phase till 2021, and having a new kind of catalog for procurement criteria. Sorry again. I want to show you because it's something very hands-on. It's a catalog we have now. It contains all the NABE criteria we have. So a catalog which contains criteria for sustainable public procurement is something we can hold in our hands within, like we have it for 1 year. And you might ask, where does the NABE platform started? Did it started very early in 2010 where we had the catalog? No, it started rather shortly in 2019. So the whole process of bringing a service platform, a center, and a catalog to work with on sustainable public procurement is something we haven't been doing for a long time, but from 2019 on, all the actions took place at the NABE platform. So one thing is, you see there is a catalog, and it covers 16 product groups. And those 16 product groups are something which is mandatory for the federal level. I will expand on that a little bit later. But it also contains very specific information on each product group and general information on how to apply it. And the NABE platform itself is a group of people, 6 in total, which is located in the BBG. Gerhard mentioned it yesterday, probably, and it's the Federal Procurement Agency, which is like the central procurement body for Austria. And the whole coordination is done for the project by the Ministry of Climate Action. So what does it show us? It shows we have to bring together different competencies. So we have the ministries and we have the central procurement body. And it is always good to work with already established structures. You see the action plan. As I said, the NABE action plan is a catalog. It contains a baseline for eco and social procurement criteria, and it has three main product groups. Just that you get an idea. One part is infrastructure, so very long time. Some criteria on investment, like refrigerators to laptops, and some have consumable goods like daily office material you might need. And all this is available online. And because this is so crucial for our communication, I will go a little bit deeper into that. All those criteria are available online. We have a website. We inform our interest public with a newsletter, with LinkedIn, and that you get an idea how the criteria work. Does it also point? No, it does not. But you see on the right side, I just picked it out for refrigerators. There are specifications. And those specifications describe very, very detailed how or what should be considered in the procurement process. And further, there's already the information where to find the information. There is written where to get it. Where is it, where do you get the information from? Who is going to deliver it? And further, you have also something for the contracting aspects of the procurement process. And why is it so crucial to put it on the website, to put it out there? It is necessary to have all information on hand. So you have the criteria and you have further information on how to apply it. If a law changes, then you have, you can give an update on that. And what we also do is we compile and compact all information for specific product groups which are procured. So you have always, we call those kind of summaries, fact sheets. So you have the criteria, you have to have the information on how to apply it. You have a TCO calculations, so you see if you buy a product which is more eco-friendly, which is easier to use, then you have the possibility to save money in the long term. So we give all compacted information on one hand, and it really helps to clarify, to give resources, to hand out the information to the procurement person, and the procurement person does not need to have a trainer on hand. It can inform itself. Yeah, about that. Yeah, so how to apply it, how to put the NABE action plan into action. So we have the federal level. I told you already, for the federal level, the procurement criteria are mandatory, so they have to be applied. So the federal level has to use the BBG as a procurer, so we can implement the criteria quite easy. And for example, we also train our procurers in the BBG for the NABE criteria. We have further the further public, which is not the public hand, the public institution, which are not on federal level. They are recommended to use those criteria. And then we have the non-public institution and interested, and we also recommend to use them and help them if they have any need to be, educated on that. Taking a step back, I want you to see how we drew a line from the National Action Plan, which was implemented, to the action plan we have here as a catalog. It is really crucial for the communication to have the general idea to foster sustainable public procuring, to having concrete criteria, having goals to reach, and to establish those kind of criteria as something you will use in your daily process. So this is extremely important to have a valid argumentation, and it always starts with there's a national action plan. It is also pushing SPP in every direction. Having the catalog, having the argumentation that we want to foster SPP, it really helps to train others on how to apply sustainable procurement. And it's also what we see is thinking a step ahead, that people are more willing to use the catalog if they are trained, if they have the information, if they see there's a whole picture on sustainable public procurement to implement. So, looking back, since last year, since the catalog came into action in the form we have it now, we have over 100 events and nearly 1,000 participants. Let me structure this for you. What we do, we raise awareness on SPP, we tell people how to apply the criteria in their procurement process, and we help to, consolidate the dots, bring everyone together. So, like I told you, we help the federal level, we have states, districts, cities, also organizations, suppliers, and which is like a very great focus of us, multiplicators, which help us to spread the word on it. So we want to get everyone on board, and we want to be also very resource efficient. So the catalog is something everyone could use. This is something for copy-paste, but please reference us. And we are also very open for networking, exchange, and information exchange. And sharing information is also crucial at this point, because no one has to reinvent the wheel, just use what is already there. And this is also kind of a cultural change, which leads to working together on the great picture of SPP. So just one note on the federal level I want to give to you, because the thing is, we know, or we have commissioners who are working on SPP in the ministries and taking the National Action Plan into the ministries to work on. But there's also something we offer, which is might interesting for you, is we offer seminars on the Federal Academy. So we are reaching not only to our contact points, we are reaching far beyond and give everyone a chance who wants to, learn more about the NABE criteria, about SPP, to have a daily or have a day-long seminar to, educate themselves, and it's for free. And it's really from the whole idea to getting into the process of procurement and taking criteria for their own work. The other example I want to give you is we were working with cities, and those cities who are already implementing or like looking forward to implement this, we offer special seminars to help them to kick off. And there are some takeaways I want to share with you. What we learned is the younger generation is more open towards sustainability. So this is something very great to use for establishing SPP, because if you already have motivated people, it's easy to kind of, get them on board, motivate them even more, and help them to foster sustainability in their work area. It is, secondly, it is very crucial to have like kick-off events, to have a point where you say, we have this common ground, we start together, and we want to, start from there, establishing something like the NABE action plan in their own work area. And it's always good to have like a visualization for this, that people feel like their work is, their work, add on the whole picture on SPP. And as I already mentioned several times, sharing is caring, so sharing information is very important. So this is what we do at every beginning of such a process. We share all the information we have on SPP. So, last thing. Also, what we do from the non-public procurers, who is not like public hand, who's not federal, which are not our main target groups, but still are very interesting because you can learn from this. Every question you get from those kind of people help you to learn about SPP, about a different perspective, and this could be very, very helpful. So I'm at the end of my presentation. I want to thanks to the translator, I want to thanks to Adam, to Leona, everyone for the great organization. And I just want to summarize the last 3 points to, end the presentation. So what we are doing is we explain from the great idea of the national action plan. What we have is like our NABE action plan to this whole structure of SPP, and give therefore a valid argumentation. And we are getting everyone on board because at the end there's always a human who has to do the procurement process, and we should not forget this person needs tools, this person needs information And we are going to help with that. And through training, we can signify the relevance of SPP within the organization and the process. So thanks a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward for your questions.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Laura. And I might be having, you can use this. I might be having a question because both of your countries, Austria and Slovakia, have certain obligation, a certain level of obligation of SPP in the legislation. How does it actually work in Austria? Who is covered? And are there any negative consequences if you do not follow the rule of sustainable public procurement duty? However, the Article 20, subsection 5 is speaking about green public procurement being considered.
Yeah, thank you for your question. For Austria, it is, like I mentioned, that the federal level has to procure accordingly to the NABE action plan, and the federal level has to use the BBG as a procurer, as a procurement institution. So there, within the organization, it is possible to apply where the criteria applies, the criteria for SPP. So this is kind of how it works. For any other public institution, it is not mandatory. So far, there are no penalties in place because it's still, when we think about it, it's a lot. We have like this 1 year of learning how to implement it, and it's about getting everyone, you know, the procurers, the ministries on board, having them asking for the right criteria implemented, and getting everyone on board for this idea to procure more green.
Thank you. And now I'm switching to Czech. Na rozdíl od Rakouska, kde tedy slyšíme, že ta povinnost váže zejména federální.
Contrary to the Austria, where Austria is focusing on the federal level, in Slovakia it's quite stricter. They start with 6% of social procurement, and the novelty concerns the green procurement. This is an obligation defined by law. How does it work? How do you help to overcome the difficulties to the smaller procurers? What in particular does your office to help them and support them? You know, it's great to listen to Austria experience, how they have unified, how they have tried to create sort of a space or conditions for public procurement at the federal level. Great, of course, advantage is an organization which is also educating, training. Our role of our office is rather auditing or role, controlling role. We have also tried to support the green and social public procurement. We are being inspired intensely by the Czech Republic, example of the Czech Republic. We were very thankful that we could participate and to become acquainted with the individual step through the Czech Republic. Of course, it was put into the legal framework or legislation through an activity of particular members of parliament. We have no penalties for the time being. Nevertheless, we had to, you know,
vlastně každý rok celý dokonce to odstartovat,
whenever they were talking about public sustainable procurement, originally wanted to have as a limit at least 30% of the sustainable green social procurement. Of course, it's a nice feeling, but it's quite different if a politician comes along and says this is an obligation. So currently we have 6% of green and social public procurement, and the rest is up to the individuals. Originally, the way of thinking was focusing on 30 to 40% of green and social public procurement, which are plans difficult to comply with. We have more than 10,000 public procurers, primarily small municipalities, with a couple of just dozens of inhabitants. Just try to imagine what such a procurer can do. Usually they don't have sufficient support. We are trying to change it. We will have to change it from the political level. It's difficult to do it bottom up. There has to be a particular administrative function carried out at a higher administrative regional level. We have 5.5 million of inhabitants, we have like 8 regions. If we would have this at the level of region, it would be perfectly sufficient. If we would have a procurer, specialists, professionals at that level, that would be perfectly sufficient. Originally, we were considering to have 2 groups of the products. We had the IT and some cleaning products. We don't have a centralized procurer in Slovakia. Originally, we were considering it, but the distortion of all the supply chains is now resulting in the need of the centralized procurer. The ideal centralization, the Ministry of Social and Labour Affairs, Erika Rusnok should be present in the audience. They have decided they will do it in a sort of a Lego-style project. They will prepare an implementation or implementation requirements for the construction of social houses, social homes. They have drafted together with the Faculty of Architecture in Bratislava. They have prepared a documentation which could be used for across the whole of Slovakia, where we have a land prepared for the construction of these elderly and social services homes. So then we could have a centralized procurer as in Sweden. So it would be great if we have anything like that set up. As for social public procurement, I would say the major issue, major problem is the fear of the procurers that they will commit a mistake, commit an error, and the only way how to overcome it is to be able to recruit the people who will have the knowledge and will try to move step by step further. I think any administration sanctions, that's not helpful at all to support the idea. Thank you very much. You have mentioned in particular one product or the project documentation, which should support also and help also to apply for subsidies and funds. Are these projects which should be financed from the recovery plan? Yes, the part of it should also be financed from recovery plan. We have lots of yet unknown financial means due to the conflict in Ukraine. There might be set up a global plan for recovery of economy in Slovakia, primarily from the energy point of view. From February, we were sort of looking for anything like that, like schools, kindergartens, industry. You know, these are perfect, great goals, but the economy has to move further, has to be running. We have, quite frequently, what happens in Slovakia, that competences and responsibilities are given to the municipalities. Municipalities, they have lots of issues to cope with. We have lots of municipalities which are trying to cope with sustainability. We, of course, try to support retraining and further education. But if you would ask me what is really worrying me, I'm worried that if Slovakia would be able to survive the current situation. We can see on the level of the municipalities, mayors, that they are really trying to do their best. They are trying to go further, and they would like to start with it. That's what really is worrying to us. As for the social issues, we are considering how it could be procured. We are addressing all the social services which are available. The building of these houses, social services for elderly people. So there should be a great level of flexibility. And according to the information I have available, we have roughly 100 plots available where this could be built up, implemented, and it could be a nice proof if we have a nice team of people, students, professionals, together with the ministry people who want to implement such things. And of course, the regions would also be engaged, and the result should be quite unified approach, contrary to the fragmentation.
Thank you very much. Anything that can simplify the processes will help, especially when the processes are funded from external sources. So if the project is well prepared or can be really beneficial.
Mr. Lexa was mentioning one specific product group, let's say, or group of services provided. I would like to ask about Austrian experience with other groups, because there are 16 groups altogether in which you are focusing on sustainability. I do expect more on green than social aspects. How actually did you prioritize, and which are the most important, or which would you choose to describe in more better detail, in more detailed way? Let's say, is it the energy consumption, or is it the construction? How did you came to this, let's say, list of product groups? And which one would you let's say, describe in more detail?
Yeah, so this was also for me a very good question at the beginning when I started working at the NABE platform. So what the team before tried to do when choosing 16 product groups was to cover the most important ones, also the one who are used on like a daily basis. And as I said, of course, there's a criteria for infrastructure, which is like more long-term, but they were also like, okay, something we have to procure on a regular basis. And what you mentioned, for example, energy consumption, this is, for example, for electronics very important. So this is like a key indicator to get more energy efficient items. And there's this product group for electronics, and there are like 9 specific products which are mentioned. It's like I showed you in the orange, with the orange pictures. Those are the criteria, for example, for refrigerators, but you also have you know, baking facilities, and then like, you know, washing machines. And what they are looking into is you have the criteria how energy efficient it has to be, how loud. This is also a very interesting point, because of course the noise emission from the usage, it also affects you in your work area. And of course, something, there are criteria on how to repair it or how to, you know, maintain it to make the usage phase longer. And last week we had a symposium on circular economy, and there was a session especially on those category or criteria category. And we were really looking into it. For example, one thing was that you should do a lot, or you should focus on make the usage longer. The phase you use it, this should be as long as possible. There is the best way, or this is the best way to save resources, energy, and also money.
And I might be having one additional question, since you mentioned the orange box in your presentation. There was also a note about TCO, total cost of ownership. Mm-hmm. Have you got any specific instruments or developed any specific instruments for each and every of the product groups, how to focus on total cost of ownership calculation?
So total cost of ownership is a core thing we recommend for buying electronics and IT supply, because we see that's the key to get an idea how much energy and resources you could save over the time. So for the electronics and for IT devices, we have TCO tools. And if you look on the website, you will find it's basically an Excel sheet where we have a very, it's a very easy calculation, and you get an idea what kind of starting price you have, and then what will accumulate over the phase you're using it. And those are for smaller amounts of procurement, for smaller procurement process, because those information are for like non-federal level, for cities, for districts, for smaller processes. Within the BBG, we have the possibility, there is a competence center on TCO, and we will have like the principle within the process already implemented. So if the federal level is getting on the idea of TCO, they have the possibility to use it within BBG. And for everyone else, we have it on our website. But as I said, we have the academy, the Federal Academy for Procurement. With the procurement seminar, we will explain TCO in detail. We do a calculation together so that everyone gets the idea of not just looking on the price of one device, but also taking into account the phase of usage.
Thank you very much. A pokud jde ještě o tu slovenskou zkušenost, přece jenom
Now, regarding the Slovakian experience, you mentioned the legislation that the contracting authorities need to comply with, even though it is not as strict as in the Czech Republic, but it was necessary to make real efforts because Austria already has the VBG that has a competence center. Laura has experience with sustainability procurement, Gerhard as well, and the whole team consists of sustainability experts. But what about you and your office? You are not only a control and auditing office, but also office that issues methodology. It must have been a challenge for you as well, how to provide assistance to individual public buyers. So how did you help, and what is the development at your office since the effect of the legislation? So the office prepare the team of people who focus on the various areas. We have people for social, for green procurement. They specialize in that and dedicate time and effort to that. It is important because we were able to map out the processes in Slovakia. We organize training. We also participated in training. We cooperate with the Slovakian Environmental Agency. We cooperate with regional authorities quite closely, and we are trying to explain the people and we show examples of good practice. We invited people from the Czech Republic as well. We want to remove the barrier of fear to the people who implement green, social, or responsible or sustainable procurement. They need to see that they are supported, that they get support. So then it is much easier for these people. Regarding our office, we issued quite a lot of documents, and we also hosted a lot of training sessions where we explain the people what they should prevent, and also we want to explain our mindset, or when speaking about the life cycle cost or actual total cost of ownership, TCO, this is something we discuss quite often. We know that when we were still Czechoslovakia, the products were produced with 25 years of service life, but today we have products that can hardly be used for 2 years. So it's very often happens that you buy a product with a guarantee or warranty of 2 years, and you have it 2 years and 3 days, and it breaks down. So we would like to prolong the service life of the products. This is something we need to focus on now. The most important information I got at a seminar from one architect was that if I want to focus on sustainable procurement, I need to also focus on various other aspects, and also time. So we need time. We need to prepare well for all the procurement. So this is something we want to focus on. I'd like to say that there still are areas for improvement. We are also understaffed, and today we also have some funds available that needs to be used from previous periods. And we also make steps to improve the situation. I think the most important thing is, and I will be happy to see the website of the Austrian NABE and take it as an inspiration to make the things more simple. And it's true that people still focus on the lowest price possible, so they still compete for price. So I would say that the people who strive for innovations are almost criminalized by the others, so it's very difficult to promote innovation. So I would say that the atmosphere is not good, and of course we want to solve the situation, and I always look forward to various seminars and workshops, and when we explain the people what is possible, they are very often surprised. So we are trying to be a supportive body, and we want to explain everything and explain the criteria, explain the requirements and everything. So communication is key.
Thank you very much. The communication towards the procurers, buyers, education, training, workshops, that is being mentioned by every single speaker, an important feature. You have also mentioned the support to the management, or the lack of the support has been mentioned by Leona as an additional feature which is complicating the development of a sustainable public procurement.
The leadership support, whether there is a strong leadership support, and how to get leadership support for SPP and strategy in public procurement. And another very important issue of developing strategy in public procurement is engaging the stakeholders. So which are the, let's say, most relevant stakeholders, how you actually tackle the problems. It is good to have your own team, but you cannot do it even if you get professional good team at BBG. You definitely have to get in touch with the Ministry of Environment itself. You have to tackle even the chambers of commerce and stuff like that. So would you elaborate a little bit more on how to engage with stakeholders to make the system work?
Yes. You already mentioned a lot. So I think the main issue is to have this idea of sustainable public procurement and not having one single organization standing for it. So for what I mean is we have the NABE platform who facilitates the communication, the trainings, but as you said, in a way, to train everyone, we would be so understaffed. There are not resources. And I see it not as our job to train everyone. It's more like finding the multiplicators, because every organization is procuring, every organization is having sustainability as a goal within their own organization. So what is important is to have an idea who could be your stakeholder. So of course the federal level is one of the most important because they have to implement the criteria, and anyone else who supports the idea of sustainable public procurement helps the idea to grow. So it's more about having the strategy, having the NABE action plan, having the catalog, putting it into action, than saying, okay, we are like, this is the field we are playing on, and we have to get everyone in the field. The field has to grow.
Thank you very much. Já bych možná zkusil otevřít pole pro dotazy, pokud se najdou.
Maybe we can now invite the audience to ask the questions. I can't see any hands up. Oh, I can see hands up. Jiří Prokš in front line.
Dobrý den, Jiří Prokš. Just short question
Jiří Prokš.
What do big suppliers think about the action plan, about the catalog, and were they somehow involved in the process of creating the catalog? Did you use their expertise and knowledge? Why am I asking? Because a lot of Czech public buyers often tries to do their best on the field of social and environmental public procurement, but without prior consultation with the market, we can't often achieve the results we want to achieve, because our point of view on certain things is quite different than suppliers' point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. I think getting into action, putting SPP in a way where we have it now, where we have criteria, wouldn't be possible without the suppliers, without the innovation, who are offering what is needed. And I think looking back at how the NABE action plan was created, there was a stakeholder process, and everyone was able to contribute their perspective, and that's a very crucial point, that you have talks with everyone, you get everyone on board, you open up in a way that you say, okay, we want to have your feedback, we want to have your insight, and we need to get your perspective into the process, otherwise we cannot make it possible. So I think this is crucial to go with the market and also see. What we see is there are a lot of innovation, there are a lot of very engaged people who say, okay, we want to make a better world for everyone, for example, for their children and grandchildren, and and therefore we are having the kind of enterprise or company who is leading into sustainability. So I think this is very important to get this perspective within the process.
To môžem potvrdiť, že rovnako my, keď sme pripravovali tie materiály,
may confirm that we were drafting the materials. We prepare at least 2 documents on an annual basis. All colleagues at the office addressed the market. We had a discussion on cleaning products, so we could have at least a rough idea. We have got in touch with the market, so the material document was being prepared in close cooperation with the market. As for the notebooks, we had the GPP drafted by European Commission, and I was reading a magazine, and I have seen that a company has started to use a high level of recycled materials, and I was immediately looking if the particular product is already available on our market. It's not yet, but whenever the ministries give a request and give us sufficient time for the company to penetrate the market, then we can, of course, offer it. When we were supposed to draft a document for the purchase of the electric vehicles, so we have asked the importers if they may sort of discover what energy, what is the what type of energy they are using for the manufacturing, if it's a renewable energy or not. And we originally had a large sheet of focus in individual questions to know really whether the green aspect is also at the level of manufacturing. If you see a manufacturing plant with a whole field of photovoltaics, then of course it's a positive. So we have to be aware of what is available on the market, whether it's sufficiently green, and then of course we may conclude contracts, we may even conclude a long-term contracts, we may enable to new suppliers to penetrate the market, to come with innovative ideas. But the state, the government has to give the order, has to define the goal, and then we can go and follow it. The inclusion, to include the market is one of the major topics. It may help a lot. We have also been discussing the commodity focus and the lack of commodity focus. It has been mentioned in yesterday's presentation, Mr. Verzali.
Questions or about basically applying any action plan. Either it's, let's say, structured, complex action plan, or it's more individual plans for individual product groups. Demands overcoming some barriers. You definitely face barriers in implementing your national action plan. Would you be possible to sum up 2-3 main barriers? And in order not to, let's say, end the session in a negative way, what would be the preferred, let's say, steps or visions how to overcome the barriers in these areas?
Okay, the first, the barriers, it's possible for me to answer that. For the positive, for the positive ending, I have to think about while I'm talking. So I think the 3 main challenges towards implementing any kind of criteria or catalog or a national action plan is you have to get the attention, and this is something we are facing right now, and you mentioned it, that there are challenges which are not directly related to sustainability or to procurement, but still they demand a huge amount of attention. So you have to get the focus on your topic, you have to get everyone to go along with you. And the second thing, and it belongs to the attention problem, is that you have to transfer the knowledge in a way that everyone can receive it and can work with it. So you have to, and I think that's very crucial, you have to find the level to talk to people in a way that they're willing to take the information, to work with the information, and to help you with your project. So this is talking to people in a way that everyone is on board with the idea. And also what you already mentioned is it needs time and it needs a strategy. So you have to have a bigger picture you're going to walk to, and you have to have time to implement. So it is better to get everyone on board, to take time, to train, and to let the market develop along your idea towards this bigger picture of sustainable public procurement, so that you can, you can really implement it, not just, you need really to have something which has a stable foundation. So what I see, and this really amazes me throughout the whole time I'm working in this field, is that people are so engaged and so willing to work for the idea of sustainable public procurement, that this really is something we can use, because at the end, as I said, these are people who have to procure. And if they're willing to think about sustainability, if they're willing to do this further step, it really is possible to get to a more greener future than we have now. And it was a positive ending for me.
Thank you very much. Pane místopředsedo, vy jste to taky zmiňoval.
Thank you very much. You have mentioned it as well, primarily the time needed for processing. If you are to imagine how your country should cope with all the challenges, rising prices of energies, rising inflation, nevertheless, how not to forget the sustainability, that we have to think sustainable, we have to think about the consequences like climatic changes, and we should support the transformation of economy and to be able to achieve lower dependency energy-wise. Can you imagine what type of recommendation you would give for how to support the green, sustainable and smaller green carbon footprint for the future? You know, what has been mentioned by a colleague of mine, I do fully agree with all of what has been mentioned. Whoever is buying, procuring, in public procurement, they take the idea of sustainability as their own idea. Of course, they commit mistakes, but these are not dramatic. They have a full support of all the teams. We are trying to find out what is maybe interesting, and of course what is expecting, what is ahead of us. You know, we have drafted a material of 550 criteria which are recommended, important for sustainability. That was again inspiration from the Czech Republic when you were drafting the ideas within the construction industry, building industry, what that should be focused, etc. Right now, you know, maybe we have too many materials. The best is to meet, to talk to people if they let us know what they need, and then at the level of regional centers, we have our colleagues may submit or show particular materials. Then we can prepare education, training for them. Of course, there are certain ideas which will not be fostered, and the other ideas, on the other hand, are promoted. People have to know where there are financial means available, information available. Last week, we had a conference in Slovakia. We were discussing with the auditors. We were discussing important issues, and we were able to find a mutual agreement. And that's exactly one of the things which helps us to move further. You just are on the safe way ahead. You just have to finalize it. And even the positives have to be disseminated and shared.
I'd like to summarize. We need sufficient time. We need to be enthusiastic. We need other people to be enlightened and enthusiastic, and it's definitely necessary to have a plan. Either a brief plan or be it a very detailed plan. So we need both. So thank you very much for the discussion. Thank you, our panelists. And now we will have a coffee break for 30 minutes, and we will resume the session at 11:05. Thank you very much, Laura and Mr. Laksa.